friend of mine, a very good composer, Luis Prado, had been a student of Joseph Castaldo's, and he had always raved about him as a teacher and as a composer. And he had played me a couple of his pieces, a string quartet, and of course Ancient Liturgy. And 15 years ago, I thought, wow, this is what an extraordinary piece of music. I loved the effects of it and how it just sort of seemed to be outside of the box of sort of mainstay choral music. I started to research Castaldo, and I couldn't find anything about it. So I thought, this is an interesting quest. Here was a real Philadelphia composer who was very, very influential in a lot of pieces performed, and it was almost as if he had been completely forgotten. It was the 20th anniversary of Ancient Liturgy, and it was only one performance of the piece.
Well, in the music group of Philadelphia, we were used to doing unusual pieces of music. When we began rehearsing the Castaldo piece, we sort of had this, on one hand, some faith that, okay, this is going to come together. On the other hand, we had no idea what this thing was going to sound like. There were effects in the orchestra that I had not heard before. I believe that the vibraphone was being bowed with probably a bass violin bow. There was some kind of roar effect being produced on a bass drum, I think with a Super Ball. There was a prepared piano that made kind of a plunking sound. The piano was also strummed. It was very, very unusual and set a great atmosphere. And the other thing was Walter Dallas.
Be gracious to me, O Providence, and Psyche, as I speak these mysteries. Have it that I'll not forget, but for instruction.
And his ability to put this text across. To me, that really helped sell the piece. He had such conviction. That inspired us to, I think, kind of get out of our comfort zone and kind of go with this and put this across.
I'll never forget those times. It was so exciting to hear this piece for the first time. The chorus was magnificent, and the piece had an energy to it. He was interested in how liturgies might have begun, how ritual might have grown out of man's experience in his life. And he wasn't really listening to any other composers at that time or any other music, because the liturgy resonated so much in him that he wanted it just to sort of come out of his whole musical creative being. So he just wrote it out of his own imagination of what this ancient religion, secret religion would be like. And he would sit at the piano and he would play all the orchestra part, and he would sing the text at the top of his voice. It was great to hear.
Sean's told us on several occasions that we are not in the entertainment business, that we are in fact in the communication business. And the idea with this premiere was really the acid test of that. We were putting across a work that nobody had ever heard before. And it was really up to us to communicate what Joseph Castaldo had in mind. I think what Sean was really good at for me was getting me to really realize the other dimensions of the piece and how I have to get out of my comfort zone to be able to put these across. And certainly ancient liturgy required us to be out of our comfort zones all over the map. I mean, we had to sway, we had to clap, we had to play instruments, we had to count. So there was a lot of just generally non-traditional choral music making that we had to do. And certainly it was a very spiritual piece. And I think that's a side of our experience in music group that was always very significant. And Sean had a lot of respect for composers that tried to put into music how they felt spiritually. That was a really nice gift that Sean gave us, was to try to open our eyes more to see the music world and maybe, all of us in a more global sense. To do that through music, I think, was a lot of what Sean was about.